Media companies will need to enhance online safety in Singapore under a new set of rules. Health Minister Ong Ye Kung reveals that 80,000 seniors have still not taken their first booster shots. And changing attitudes, a survey shows more young people are happy to live without a car. Hello, you're watching The Big Story with me, Olivia Quay. Remember to subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss an episode. Now, if they want to operate in Singapore, social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram and TikTok will soon be legally required to implement safety standards and content moderation processes that minimize a user's risk of exposure to harmful online content. Well, these will be under two new sets of rules proposed by the Communications and Information Ministry. The first is the Code of Practice for Online Safety, which requires that social media services with high reach or high risk have system-wide processes to enhance online safety for all, with additional safeguards for young users. And under the second code, the Content Code for Social Media Services, the Infocom Media Development Authority may direct any social media service to remove specified types of egregious content. Well, these were first mentioned in Parliament in March during the debate on MCI's budget. And in a Facebook post today, Minister Josephine Teo says she's glad that, quote, "we are making good progress and have developed two proposed codes of practice for social media services." Moving forward, public consultations will begin next month, and after that, the new codes are expected to be added to the Broadcasting Act. With more is our tech correspondent, Rei Kurohi. Rei, what are the current codes and guidelines that tech giants need to abide by in Singapore, and how will the two proposed codes add to that?
So right now, the IMDA's codes don't really cover the social media platforms that the new codes are supposed to cover. In fact, these new codes are really meant to sort of plug that gap in the law. The closest thing we probably have to it at the moment is the Internet Codes of Practice. But if you look into the wording of those rules, they really cover more on websites, e-commerce platforms perhaps, and they're not really fit for purpose for what we're trying to achieve with these new codes. If you apply them to Facebook, for example, you'd have to essentially take down the entire website. And what we're really trying to achieve, or what the MCI is trying to achieve, is to get these websites to take down specific content, posts, videos, and so on. So these codes of practice are really aimed at social media platforms. We're talking Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and these are the ones that will be likely designated when the codes of practice come into effect. Of course, we don't have the specific names yet, but we can assume some of these bigger social media platforms will be on the list. And as part of their obligations, they will need to put in place certain moves to protect young users specifically. And we're talking about those under the age of 18. They will need to have tools for the users themselves or their parents to be able to control some of the access to objectionable content.
Then, Rei, how do the two codes compare with what other countries have done?
So it's a bit early to talk about the specific details. So the MCI briefing this morning didn't really go into the very specific details about what's covered, which platforms are covered, and what the penalties are if they don't comply. And that's because a lot of the specifics are still being worked out. They're still being developed in collaboration, in fact, with the tech companies. So I think the approach we're taking here in Singapore is quite different, because if you look at the way that the EU does it with their Digital Services Act, it's a little bit more antagonistic, you could say. They're really trying to push the tech companies to regulate themselves and of course to adhere to their codes of practice over there. Whereas here we're trying to develop it in collaboration with them.
Many thanks to the Straits Times' tech correspondent, Rei Kurohi. Don't delay anymore, go get your booster shot. That's the message from Health Minister Ong Ye Kung to 80,000 seniors who have yet to take their first COVID-19 booster shots. Well, here's a snippet of the video he posted on social media.
It makes a difference whether you have taken 0, 1, 2 or 3 shots. If you are a senior, 60 years old and above, the chance of you ending up in ICU or dying is If you have not taken the first 2 shots, 4 in 100. If you have taken the first 2 shots but not taken your boosters, 1 in 100. If you have taken all 3 shots, 3 in 1000. That's more than 3 times less chance. Currently, for seniors 60 years old and above, there are still 80,000 of you who have not taken your boosters. You need to take your boosters. So don't delay anymore, go get your booster shot. You can walk into any vaccination center, and MOH will also be sending out our mobile vaccination team soon.
In other news, those who have successfully applied for National Day parade tickets will be notified through their personal emails sent only by this address, ndp2022@haps.com. Other email addresses and even SMSs will not be used. These notification emails will be sent from June the 27th to July the 1st, and ticket collection is from July 8th to 10th and 15th to the 17th. Well, here's another date for you. June the 30th. That's when StarHub's early bird rates end for Premier Plus, its English Premier League over-the-top service, after it extended the deadline once again because of the, quote, enthusiastic response. The initial promotion had only been for the first 25,000 sign-ups for both existing and new subscribers. But after that was met with overwhelming demand, StarHub had extended the deadline to June the 19th. And make sure you have your umbrellas ready to weather phenomena La Nina in the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean dipole are set to bring more rain clouds over the region from now through to August. On most days, the daily temperature is forecast to range between 24 and 33 degrees Celsius, but there could be a few warm days with daily highs exceeding 34 degrees. Well, less than 2 months after he was re-elected, French President Emmanuel Macron has lost his majority in parliament. His centrist coalition losing seats to left-wing and far-right parties in Sunday's legislative election. According to political observers, Mr. Macron could be forced to dissolve parliament and call fresh elections in a year if his policies are impossible to push through. It seems like more young people in Singapore are giving up on cars. In a survey commissioned by the Straits Times and carried out by Nexus Link in April, 50.4% of just over 500 respondents say they aspire to own a car within the next few years. But this is down from 65.5% when the same poll was done in 2016. Well, here to tell us why is senior transport correspondent Christopher Tan. Christopher, what are the main reasons for this shift in mindset in owning cars?
Yeah, I think youth today are more, going for experiential rather than material acquisitions. They want to travel, they want to spend more money on wining and dining, on wellness programs, scuba diving, skydiving, that kind of thing, rather than material things. And cars are a big ticket item and they're expensive. Now, across the world, there have been studies saying that the millennials are not as car crazy as the baby boomers. But I think this may not be uniform across all countries. For instance, in newly motorized countries such as China, car sales are just going through the roof. And in Malaysia, just recently, there are now more cars than human population. So it's not uniform. In places where, in major cities where public transport is mature and well developed, I think the need to buy a car reduces, right? Lessens. That's only logical. I think in Singapore that could be the case, right? In the last few years, public transport has improved a lot. I think we have moved away from the very disruptive years 10 years ago, when the rail system was aging and had full of issues. I think we've gone past that. The rail system is pretty reliable these days. Bus as well. We have a lot more buses and they seem to be more dependable. And phone apps tell us when the bus is coming. All right, buses are less crowded. So I think in terms of alternatives, there are, right? And also in terms of people who want to have a car, like for instance, a taxi where a bus and a train will not do, they have a lot more apps today to summon a car. right, than say 6 years ago. 6 years ago, the ride-hailing industry was just coming up, was starting to grow. Now I think it's reached a pre-mature state.
Well, Christopher, when it comes to people, fewer and fewer people wanting to own cars, do you see this trend continuing as Singapore takes steps towards being a car-light country?
I think as long as people's mobility needs are well catered to, there will be less inclination to buy a car. That's again very logical. Now, what does that mean? I mean, that means a dependable, fast, and comfortable public transport system, and a well-regulated point-to-point industry, taxis and ride-hailing cars. That has to be in place before for people to kind of think like, I have alternatives, I can get around, I don't really need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a car. Now, that said, I think in every city or in every country, there will always be a place for cars. Now, car light means judicious usage of cars, not necessarily an increasingly punitive population control.
Well, Christopher, for the other half in the survey who still aspire to own a car, what are their most important considerations?
I think young families with aged or disabled members will obviously find cars more convenient. But the thing is, once you have a car, it is almost impossible to wean yourself, to go carless again. No, because the level of service that a car provides is obviously much higher than any other alternative. In that vein, I think the results of this poll is encouraging because, 6 years ago when we did a survey, almost 2/3 of youths said they wanted to own a car, they aspired to own a car. But today, I think the percentage has dropped to just over 50%. I think it will be interesting, to see the results 6 years on.
And that was senior transport correspondent Christopher Tan. Well, those are our top stories today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel. For more videos, subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay, and I'll see you tomorrow on The Big Story.